My name is Stephanie Scoggins, and today I'm going to talk to you about my assignment, my case study. So my case study is based off of a social media platform called BlueChip, and they have had a data privacy crisis. This crisis has angered users, panicked investors, and brought scrutiny from lawmakers. So, how did the crisis occur? An outside foreign company was able to access private information to target the preferences of users based on their shopping habits and their voting habits. The data that the company was able to access was something that was never supposed to be shared with anyone outside of BlueChip. BlueChip had assured users that their data would be kept private and that it would not sell or share any of this information. This is also reflected in BlueChip's user agreement, which states this, and it is also a platform that BlueChip hangs on to today. So what was the reaction? So when this information came out, it wasn't because BlueChip came out and decided to tell the public about it. It was because it was uncovered by the media. And so when this occurred, BlueChip leadership failed to respond. They thought that the issue would blow over. And the CEO of BlueChip failed to show up for any press meetings or address any concerns from the public. However, once lawmakers became involved and wanted to start speaking to BlueChip and the leadership there, that's when the company started to acknowledge that there was a breach of trust. So this brings about the question, where is the transparency? Transparency is very important when it comes to any sort of company or group. Leadership needs to be transparent with their actions and who they are themselves. So for BlueChip to say that nothing had occurred and then come back and say later that something had occurred once lawmakers got involved, that leads the public to believe that they cannot trust this company and that their data will never be private. So why is transparency important? So transparency is important because it is a powerful tool for leadership to use. It allows them to relate to people around them and for those people to relate to leadership as well. Transparency for BlueChip also would have been beneficial because it would have allowed them to take responsibility for what had occurred. Instead, by denying that something had occurred and showing a lack of transparency, they allowed for speculation and rumor to occur. And then they also made it look like they got caught. Instead, they could have stepped out in front of the issue and taken control of it. So our issues in leadership is that we have a CEO who has displayed Machiavellian tendencies. What they wanted to do was try to maintain a positive public image at all costs. However, they were doing things both ethical and unethical behind doors in order to achieve the goals for their company. And this was before the data breach, during the data breach, and after the data breach. Furthermore, the CEO for BlueChip has shown that they are corrupt by showing a lack of transparency. And honestly, for a company to not know that their data is being hacked by a foreign company as big as BlueChip, that's kind of hard to believe. And they also showed an insular tendency by disregarding the welfare of others around them. They put the needs of their company above the needs of anyone else. So this brings up an issue with our followers. For leaders, followers are key. They need followers just like followers need leaders. And essentially with BlueChip, because it is a social media platform, the followers are also the product. And if BlueChip had just listened to their followers, they could have learned how to take a step back and adjust to the will and the needs of their followers. And the situation could have turned out to be much more positive than it is. So what should have happened instead is that BlueChip should have come out within 24 hours of finding out about the issue, and they should have admitted to third-party access in order to have that transparency. This would have also fostered trust. And trust is a commodity when it comes to businesses and organizations. Once you lose it, it is extremely difficult to build back trust. And also, the way that a company acts during a crisis is a test of character. And that's how people can know whether they can trust a company or not, is based on how they act when things go wrong. So challenges for the future and things to consider. BlueChip needs to develop a plan that will protect consumers and control that data so that outside parties cannot access it. They also need to consider a change in leadership. They need leadership that values followers and has true people skills. They also need to think about how will they gain back the trust of users and if they'll be able to gain back that trust. How will they do that? How much time will it take? What does their plan look like? What are the details of it? And then they also need to think about how are they going to handle any crisis situations in the future? Are they going to continue to disregard public information and not share information? Or will they step out ahead within 24 hours of an issue and take control? So how does this relate to schools? Schools deal with student data on a daily basis, and normally this is through different technologies that we access with students. And students have a right to privacy under the FERPA Act, which protects their data from any outside sources and requires parent permission for student data to be shared. Really, when it comes to protecting student data, that falls on the IT department for a school system. And school systems need to develop a plan to keep malicious groups and people away from student data, because that could be harvested and sold just like through BlueChip and their data system. So for leadership, the question becomes, if this was your company or your school, how would you handle something as sensitive and as important as personal data?